Welcome to On Call Me Maybe Overtime, our On Call Me Maybe adjacent show that we're having while On Call Me Maybe is on break, and we'll be back at the end of the summer or sometime after the end of the summer. One of the things for On Call Me Maybe Overtime that we like to do is to talk about different things that we wouldn't necessarily get to talk about during the normal On Call Me Maybe season. I am On Call Me Maybe host Adriana Reacts, and I am here with my Tracetest friends, who I'm super excited to be talking with today, because I've been, if you follow my work, I've been futzing around with Tracetest for the better part of a year now, basically when y'all came out into the world. And one of the things that I like to do about as part of my job is collaborations with other teams, other organizations, and we've been doing collabs for a while now. So it's cool to be able to do this little collab video.
I think you were user. I think you may have been user number one. So.
Woo!
Yeah, the super most earliest adopter, I think.
Yay! Yeah. I got to see Tracetest when it was a baby.
Yeah, no, we were super thrilled to have you, though. Really happy to be here as well. And yeah, I think introductions are in order.
Yes, definitely.
I'm Ken Hamric, founder of Tracetest, and I live in Memphis, Tennessee.
I'm Oscar Reyes. I'm a lead engineer at Tracetest, and I'm from Mexico.
I'm Adnan. I do DevRel at Tracetest, so I basically don't really do anything much.
Look pretty.
I pay basically pretty face, popularity contest type. I don't know. But it's fun. It's fun. What can I say?
DevRel is fun. Do you realize that we are representing 4 different countries today?
It is. By the way, I am in Southeast Europe in Bosnia, which is, I swear to God, nobody knows where it is.
North America is well covered with this.
Yeah, North America is well covered, and then you in Europe. Yay! Represent.
So Adnan, what are we doing today?
Today we are having a very special Let's React with Adriana.
Yay!
Yeah, so we're trying to mix it up a bit, where we want to throw new features at people and see how much they hate them. No, I'm joking.
Blow my mind. I've not played with current version of Tracetest for a while. I think the last time I touched it was maybe January. So I'm overdue for a show and tell. Super excited.
No, that's awesome. We have a bunch of stuff, new stuff from January, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well, because you, Adriana, as a very influential person in the observability community, that's people, what best practices in tracing people should be following. Throwing this by you and getting your feedback is something that's influential, because we're obviously making stuff to benefit the community, and getting input from you is a big thing. So I think that's why I'm semi-joking with throwing stuff at people, but it actually makes a lot of sense. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Bring it on.
Cool. So I think Ken had a great idea where we should just kind of let you play with it. And
okay.
We're just going to sit back.
So Adriana's installed it a few minutes ago. She ran one test.
I have, yeah.
Was existing functionality, and it still is. And in a minute, we're going to get her to go to the Trace tab. We've consciously asked her not to click the middle tab.
I know. I kind of clicked it earlier. I didn't look.
Just for a second.
It was like an invitation.
We want unedited feedback, the first reaction.
Kind of existing functionality, if you would. What's Tracetest used for?
Okay, so should I go into the test that I created?
You can do that, or you can run a new one. Either one.
Okay, let's run a new one, actually. So I guess for context, for those who aren't familiar with Tracetest, maybe we should just do like a little high-level overview. Do you want me to do it? Do you want to do it?
Yeah, I want you to do it. I'd
okay.
like to hear someone else's.
Ooh,
I do it often.
Okay, so Tracetest is a tool that enables trace-based testing. And the idea of trace-based testing is if your application is already emitting application traces, why not take advantage of those traces and use those traces to create testing assertions? So basically you can create integration tests which are automated. And Tracetest is one of the tools that offers trace-based testing. And I guess the approach that y'all take is it's a more declarative approach to trace-based testing, correct?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Whereby you use YAML files to define your tests, which is cool.
And who doesn't love YAML? Everybody
I like
loves
YAML. I don't know why people piss on YAML. I
Also-
really like it. I know like a lot of people hate it, but I don't
But
know.
also, what's your option? JavaScript? Like, why would you?
Or
like, it's not
JSON. I
better.
don't like JSON. I think
No,
JSON's
it's not
messy.
better. It's
like
not better. It's
heinous.
just- it's horrible.
Exactly. Thank you. I've played around with TOML before, but TOML is a little messy as well. So I think we're stuck with YAML.
Yeah.
And-
Also, like that the two DevRels that aren't really engineers are like, So I hate programming. I wonder why, bro. I wonder why.
I like programming. It just stresses me out.
Swearing a lot as well, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the problem solving is like very, it gives you like this massive high when you solve a problem, but man, when you're in the thick of it, it's not working out. Oh, the dragon comes out.
Oh yeah.
So yes, YAML, that was quite the that was quite the sidebar. Okay, so all right, so I will go and create a new test, and I should add, like, so from when I first used Tracetest last year to now, the installer for Tracetest is quite nice because like on Mac, there's you can install Tracetest through Homebrew, which I thought was quite nice, and the installer is quite polite. It runs me through different ways of installing Tracetest, which I'm happy for. I think when I played around with it initially, I don't think, did you have it running on Docker? I think it was just Kubernetes, right?
Yeah, just God help you to get it working.
and when I started playing with Tracetest too, I don't even think I had it like fully running on Kubernetes. I'm like, I'm just gonna convert this thing to run on Nomad for funsies. Which is when I messaged y'all on Discord. You're probably thinking like, what the hell is she doing? So anyway, I did want to give a shout out to that because I do think it's worth mentioning. Like Tracetest has come a long way. Now you can install it on Docker and Kubernetes, and the installer is quite lovely. And like I, before we recorded this, you suggested, oh, why don't you install Tracetest on your machine? I'm like, okay, well, let's see how that goes. And, I had an older version running. I updated Homebrew so that it pulled the latest version of Tracetest, ran the installer, and boom, it's running on Docker on my machine. So definitely worth a shout out to that. Okay, let us create our HTTP request. We're going to leverage the PokeShop example, which I think the first time I played around with it, I could not get the PokeShop working for me. So I'm very happy to see that it's playing nice now. We're adding a Pokemon.
And Oscar was actually, he wrote the Pokemon demo. So it's a
awesome.
new microservice app with a Node front end and a worker process in the back end. So.
Yay. Cool. Bless you for writing Node code. Front end stuff is not my jam. I'm more of a back end gal. Okay, so we created the test. So what am I doing now?
Maybe go to the test tab and add
Let's
a
go.
assertion. Stay away from that
All
trace
right.
tab.
Don't go to the trace tab.
Do
Stay
not
away. Here, let's check for HTTP status. Okay, since it suggested that for me. And I guess it's running the test.
Yeah, so what happens is that specific test that you chose doesn't have any gRPC spans.
Oh, so I picked the wrong test.
You want to go for an HTTP, maybe I could go work on it.
Okay, let's delete this. That's how you know it's live. Adriana picked the wrong test.
That's good.
What's a good one to pick?
You can go for the first one or
The first one?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Fantastic.
So that's a test against the response of the trigger, the API call, which every test tool in the entire world can do. Let's pick one more. Let's add let's do from the drop down. Let's pick that all the database, there's several database operations in this that were captured by the trace. Let's make sure they're all less than 100 milliseconds. Yes.
Cool.
And to write that test, so Adriana, if you were going to write a test to check that every database call in the system worked and you had a black box test tool, how would you do that? And I think the answer is you wouldn't. It's just super hard. And that's why we're excited about the tool. So
Yay.
Yeah,
maybe this is really cool.
I'm going to direct a little bit. Maybe save this.
Okay.
And something we're actually going to change in a minute.
All right. We've saved our test.
Let's go ahead and show that YAML we were talking about. So there's and we're actually make this easier to find, but you know where it is. That's awesome. Yep,
over here, right? I seem to recall.
Test definition.
Test definition, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I've used this for my Nomad example.
Cool. And it just, the YAML that has the trigger section that defines how you're going to trigger the test, which in this case is calling API. And then you have the test specs, which she added 2 test specs. So nice, concise format that your test ends up in that you can run via CI/CD system.
Yeah, and this is pretty readable because you've got like your trigger saying that it's an HTTP request, and then these are the headers you're passing in, and then these 2 under specs. These are the 2 tests, right?
Yep.
Cool. So, it looks like an array, and then these are the 2 assertions. So basically, the 2 assertions have to be true for the test to pass.
So
and we can download the file so that we can really do GitOpsy, right?
We've talked about making this editable inline too, which I'm curious.
Oh yeah. I think that would be a good idea. For me, like when I was playing around with it last time, so I think the version I played with was probably the one that you released in like late December. And so when I was like messing around with creating test definitions, I'm like, okay, I created a sample test, grabbed the YAML so I knew what the test definition looked like, and then I was able to like create my own in my text editor without having to necessarily go GUI, because I am more of like a non-GUI kind of person, but I do appreciate having a GUI to be able to like actually validate that the things are doing what they're supposed to do. So anyway, all right. So we are going to run the test.
You can run it again, but that's a pretty good, we've gone from creating the test with the trigger, defining the trigger. We've added some assertions. We've seen what we'd run from the CI/CD system. So I think at 9, we're probably getting near a reveal time.
I'm just waiting for the bombshell.
Oh, what's the
I'm going to let you guide it. How do you want to do this?
Trigger the run once again, and then pop over to the trace tab.
Oh, by the way, it says it failed.
Yeah, you'll see.
Oh.
You'll see in a sec.
Yes.
Now you pop over to the trace tab and see what happens.
Oh, okay. There is a lovely trace tab here. Oh,
and there we go.
Okay, I see. Okay, so what am I looking at?
Do you ever use Lighthouse in Chrome?
Yes, Lighthouse.
Yeah,
No.
Google Lighthouse.
Yeah, so Lighthouse in Chrome is a tool that basically it analyzes the web page you're on, and it tells you all sorts of information about the web page. Are you using standards? Is it accessible? What else does it give you, Oscar? Timing stuff?
It gives you performance. It gives you security problems that you might find. It also analyzes the SEO, sorry. So it analyzes everything for the application to be kind of at speak. And so this is kind of the similar approach that we took with our Tracetest analyzer that I want to present today. That is pretty much looking at your spans, looking at your telemetry data, and giving you important information about what you added in the spans or the attributes that are part of the trace. and that's what you see here.
Cool.
So we're testing the quality. I'd say we're testing the quality of traces on this tab. So as you're developing, if you've got standards that you want to enforce, hey, we're going to make sure we pay attention to OpenTelemetry semantic conventions, and if you break them, we want to tell you, or we want to not allow you to push that code through.
Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. That's nice, because I think like one of the things that people confound when it comes to observability is that observability equals OpenTelemetry. And I mean, OpenTelemetry enables observability, but like just because you're sending data somewhere doesn't give you observability. It's all about the quality of the data. Are you sending the right data so that you can actually troubleshoot the thing that you're troubleshooting? So I think this is like a really good, a nifty little feature. I think it'll be very, very helpful to various teams using this kind of thing.
So yeah, that's the main purpose of it, is to think of, so when I'm pushing code, am I actually pushing valid observability as well? Am I pushing, is my code and instrumentation good? Is everything to spec? Because it's hard writing code instrumentation. It's not simple. It's not a trivial thing at all, right? We all know that if we've ever written any instrumentation, it's not trivial at all.
Consistently across teams is really hard.
Exactly.
How do you enforce rules across?
And that's
development teams.
Yeah, and that's a problem we were thinking about. We had serious discussions about this, and that's the problem we were thinking of. Is we need to figure out a way of ensuring high quality data telemetry. So we need to help users enable them, in a sense, to get high quality telemetry, and we do that by analyzing the traces and giving them a score, so to say, of here's what you need to fix, here's what you've been doing well, and here's what you need to improve on. And that's basically the main problem we wanted to figure out how to solve. And then the solution is obviously, let's analyze it. Let's give you a set of evaluations, and let's also detect patterns for you, and then help you fix all of those problems. So because we had a very fun, I think Ken remembers, we had a very fun chat with Michael from AWS, and he said, the tool should tell me what I want to do, right? I don't want to figure stuff out. I want the tool to tell me you should do this, and then I do it. Right?
Yeah.
Which is what defines a well-built tool. And
that's actually where the test snippets came from that you were leveraging to easily add tests. Was Michael was like, it should prompt me for some common tests. So we added that. Why don't you go ahead and click around? This is live software, so
okay, cool. Well, let's look at common problems. So I'm guessing that because under common problems it's green and it's 100, I'm guessing that it's good. But what is it? What is it that it's checking?
Oscar's the scoring guy, so he and his team worked on most of this. So I'll let him talk about that.
What specifically are the things that it checks?
Yeah, exactly. So I can talk about how this works. So pretty much what the analyzer does is that it's a plugin system framework. What it does is that for each of the registered plugins that exist, in this case we have 3. That is the OpenTelemetry semantic conventions, the security plugin, and the common problems. It has a list of rules. So as you can see, the one that you're looking at right now, that it says DNS over IP, it pretty much validates that every request that is being used prefers to use the usage of DNS over IP. So in the case, if the IP changes, the application doesn't break, right? Because you're pointing to a DNS instead of an IP. If you, for instance, open the OpenTelemetry conventions, the first tab, you will see that under that tab, for each of the bullet points, we have a span name convention, we have required attributes per span type, we have attribute naming. So what we're doing here is translating all of the documentation that is spread out into multiple kind of links, GitHub, URLs, that kind of stuff, to one concise way of analyzing your trace and showing you all of the possible problems and details that you can see in your instrumentation data.
Oh,
So in
cool.
that case, you have wrong naming, you can fix that. If you have missing attributes for specific span types, we have HTTP spans that regard the method or the database regard the system attribute. So that kind of stuff is all outlined over here.
So is there like a place where I can refer to like what the conventions are then?
Not today, but that's something that was going to be added to the analyzer pretty soon. So
Okay, cool.
just to give you a little bit of context, this analyzer was built during a hackathon. So the
Cool.
version that you're looking at right now is the hackathon version that we kind of built during 2 days, 3 days.
Nice.
And we had this idea over in our heads for a long time, and we just decided that the hackathon was this perfect time to just try to implement something. We liked the outcome. We knew that it had a lot of more potential to grow and having some features, but this is what we want to put out there for to getting feedback and for having community just look at it.
Oh, nice. So are you pulling like if I understand correctly, you said that you're pulling like all of the stuff on semantic conventions kind of all into one place. That right now it's kind of spread out in the hotel documentation. Is that?
Yeah. So what happened?
Good.
Yes. And what happens is that there are specific details of the semantic conventions or the convention in general that are in the different. Some of them are in the part of the OpenTelemetry libraries. Some of them are in the website. So looking at them into these different places can be difficult.
Yeah.
And so for someone new, so it's not like we're actually fetching the data, but we are kind of putting everything together into a logic that makes sense and follows those conventions.
But did you like, in order to pull all that in to like the single sort of pane of glass where you're seeing all this, like, are you having to manually go in like and code all that stuff like from on the back end side? I'm just curious.
Yes, today the rules are custom logic that we implemented in Tracetest.
Yeah.
To achieve that.
Yeah.
We want to provide multiple ways for users to configure them, to enable, disable, skip them, triggering warnings. So actually, this analyzer was the first idea was to work like a linter, like what you use for TypeScript or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a following that idea.
That's really cool because like if I understand correctly like what you've done, then once you have a place where you can like actually see all these rules in one spot, I almost feel like it's one of those things that can be contributed back to OpenTelemetry and say, hey, look, these are all your semantic conventions all in one place. You don't have to like do the archaeological dig for the semantic conventions, which I think is super awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you jump over to the settings, you'll see a bit more. Actually, the main settings. So if you go back to the main page, and then you'll get bottom left.
If this was proper UX session, we'd let her struggle to find the settings.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, tell me. Oh, I see. I found the settings.
You'll see an analyzer in beta tab.
Okay.
And as you can see, it says we have the 3 plugins right now, and it's exactly what Oscar was explaining. And as you're saying that right now it's still in beta, so they're all bundled in one.
Yeah.
But eventually our plan is to make that plugin system more loose, where you can enable and disable whichever ones you want, where you can implement more ones, you can add in more ones. And obviously, I mean, I think Oscar can tell you a bit more about that.
So you can create your own plugins as in the future. Is that the idea?
So that was one of the goals, possibly opening this to a marketplace, but this is not like in the near ideas. We would like to first refine the things that we have, improve the UX, and then provide something that is has a lot of value for our current users, and then we can to open that to a marketplace system.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
That's a great idea to contribute it back. Because right now it's all over the place, especially
that's the thing, right? I mean, like, and I think that's one of the pieces of feedback. Like, I'm part of the end user working group, and one of the pieces of feedback that we've received is like, documentation needs some work. I mean, I feel like that's always the case for open source documentation, but also it is a bit of an archaeological dig to find certain things. Like, and I've experienced that myself too, right? Where, oh, this piece of information is in the docs, but then, oh, going to the README in the GitHub repo, you find some other like extra little nugget that's not in the docs, and you're like, okay, and then bookmark all the things and pray that you remember where the bookmarks are.
Exactly, and not to throw some shade to the community, but also there's a lot of languages that support OpenTelemetry, right? And there are libraries for each language, so it is pretty easy to not diverge from the actual convention. Sometimes the Golang library might have something different than the JavaScript one. So with this tool, you can also ensure that all of the libraries have follow the same semantics that are described in the documentation, right? And you don't have like different outputs depending on the language and the library you use.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, what other cool stuff are we gonna explore?
We saw the test. You saw the test snippets that was added. That was based on Michael from AWS's
nice
suggestion. I thought it was a
cool.
And so maybe we can go back to the settings.
Okay, like the general
analyzer.
settings.
And let's go back to the analyzer.
Okay.
So what you will see for every fresh new installation of Tracetest, we have the analyzer enabled by default. But we don't have the minimum score is a kind of a part of the analyzer as well, where you can define if the final score that you see in the Tracetest result doesn't match the threshold, you'll get an error. That's something that we use having a 0 by default, so it doesn't affect your current tests.
Okay.
But if you come here and you want to have something like, okay, 90% or 80%, this will automatically end the test, at least at this moment. So you can see that you can have this as your CI/CD process to break the pipelines when this is not met.
Okay, so basically, like because you've got these three things aggregated, it's basically an aggregated score that it looks at across the board.
Exactly. So we have a diagram where the way I can explain it is that it has three levels. It has the global score level, the plugin level, and the rules. Rules are a fail pass result, which if you have one rule that failed, the plugin will automatically we will mark as failed, but with a score. So in this example, we have two plugins, right? And each plugin has four rules, and each rule has a different weight. This weight is something that is currently hardcore part of the rule itself, but we want to open this so teams can decide what would be the weight for each of the rules if they want to change that. So in this case, for the first scenario where the first two rules fail, what is the 60% that failed, then the score for this plugin would be 40%, because the other ones are 20. For the second plugin, we have 4 rules, and then the first one failed with 20%, so the final score is 80%, right?
Got it.
And the global score, the final one, is just the sum of all of the plugin scores divided by the number of the plugins. And that's how we're doing the calculation today.
Cool.
So it might be just see how that works. If you change the minimum score to, let's say, 90 or something very high, and you save that and rerun the test, you'll see that the test will come back as failed because the linter, well, actually the analyzer is below the threshold.
Cool. Okay, let us run. I guess I could have just run it from the other tab. Version. Right. Okay, let's run the test.
Yeah, and if you go to the trace section, you'll see the lint error at the top, which says that it didn't reach.
Oh, okay, yeah, lint error. Cool.
Yes.
Does it show? Does it show your total score anywhere?
Yeah. So the first one, the trace analyzer result.
Oh, okay, that's your. Okay, got it.
actually just sent our UX person Oli a thing saying, "Hey, we should make that one different than the other three."
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say, because otherwise it looks like it's the same. Like it looks like you're
Same
running
level.
4 different types of tests, and then I was like looking below it where it shows the summaries again for each of the tests, and I'm like, why is trace analyzer result missing? But okay, cool.
So the next goal is we're going to make it so you can run this via the CLI and
Yay.
do things like,
I love
hey,
CLIs.
I just want to run the linter. I don't care about the test. I just want to make sure the traces that we're pushing towards production are quality. They meet our quality standards. Fail the CI/CD pipeline if it doesn't, so the developer knows. Oh, I put in an attribute with a space in it. Well, you can't have spaces in attribute names, and you can test the quality of your traces, and then you can also build tests based on traces, and that's what Tracetest is still a pretty good name for this because we're testing the quality of the trace.
Yeah.
We also build traces, so kind of dual.
Yeah, I love how you've taken it to the next level, because I think the quality of the traces is still as important as what you're testing. So,
and how do you build a good test if you have poor quality traces?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I was wondering about, just going back to our different like rules that we're testing for in the security rules. What does it test here for security?
So today we only have 2 rules. The first one is to enforce or just to validate that all of the requests are using HTTPS instead of HTTP. As I said, this is just the hackathon version. So this is looking for the HTTP spans and checking that.
Yeah.
And then the no API leak. So in that case, this is similar to avoid kind of logging sensitive data. One of the sensitive data could be authentication tokens as part of the spans, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Okay.
I think some of this is done for a vision. Hey, this is the kind of things we want to do. And one thing we're hoping to get out of exposing it early in the product is, why don't you have this under security?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's a great idea. We'll add that under security.
Exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Are there any other checks that you're thinking that you might add in the nearish future?
So
like not necessarily in security, like just in general. Like, are there any other types of lints that you're thinking of that are like part of your wish list?
No, so go ahead. Yeah, we want to take the semantic conventions and really get those. I'd say perfect's a bad word, but get them very close to perfect. There's a lot of, if it's a MySQL database, you should do this specific thing. And I don't think we've taken it to that level yet in the 2-day hackathon. So I would like to, and I'd like to see some links back to the semantic conventions. When we say something's wrong, I'd like to see links back to the documentation.
Yeah, that would be awesome, actually. I totally agree with you. I think semantic conventions are probably like the top priority one, followed by security, of course. But yeah, I think the semantic conventions would definitely go a long way. And then I'm just curious, would you split the semantic conventions into different categories? Like general semantic conventions versus like language specific ones?
We might now.
That's a good point for opening a GitHub issue. I'm just saying.
Ooh, dang.
I'm writing the rules for us.
I'm on the hook now.
It's guilt tripping you into opening issues.
I know, guilt tripping. Add to my to-do list. Ping me on Slack, remind me. I will do that.
Well, yes, and we have other kind of more ideas on what other things we can analyze by having a trace, right? Potential problems with infinite loops, or there's a message span sending the message, but we never got the second half of it. There's a bunch of stuff that we can do by just looking at the trace and the spans and understanding the sequences and the patterns.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of in the future of this, just the first version of something really big.
Yeah.
One of
absolutely. I think this is such a I think it's such a cool set of features to release.
Thank you.
I was going to call it Adam Gardner because he created one of the early issues saying it'd be great if it could look for common patterns and issues.
Ooh,
and so
right on.
and he had several ideas that were related to that talked about N+1 problems.
Yeah.
So we're going to start trying to march down the path of covering some of those types of
Okay, cool. Amazing.
Yeah, as you can see, I mean, this has been something since November of last year. So it's something we've been thinking of a long time.
Yeah.
And just now got the opportunity to build that.
Oscar, every planning session, he's been trying to get it in. And he labeled it back in August, he labeled it the dream. So
Ooh,
Yeah, it was a dream because he was like
ain't nothing like a hackathon to make things happen, right?
it was.
Yeah.
One other question that I wanted to ask, not related to like the trace analyzer, but something related to the CLI. When I started playing around, I seem to recall that you can create tests with the CLI, provided that you have the YAML file. And then there's like a different type of was it a transaction, right? A transaction which lets you daisy chain the tests together. Is that something that you can create through the CLI now?
Yes, but
Yay.
you run it with the same command as for the test.
Ah, okay.
Just
Okay,
brings
so
the YAML.
basically the YAML file looks different.
Yeah. So if you create a transaction and export it from the UI, you get the YAML for a transaction, and then you run it with the same command. So Tracetest test run -d and point to the file.
Ooh,
So,
fantastic.
and now we finally have that in the documentation because we updated the CLI and Web UI documentation to have the same sets of features.
Hey,
and that was a massive update as well.
bonus,
So we finally, talking about terrible documentation, finally have that in as well. So that's reflected and yeah.
That's awesome. For what it's worth, documentation is hard. You know, for anyone who rips on documentation, like it's easy to rip on documentation, but like if you've ripped on documentation and haven't tried writing documentation yourself, I suggest you give it a try because it's not easy.
Give you a little empathy.
Sorry?
It would give you a little empathy.
Yeah, it would give you a little empathy because I mean, like, especially technical documentation is hard because you almost have to think of every single little thing. And if you're writing documentation after a while, your brain's just like turning to mush and you're like, I can't do this anymore. Is there a shortcut? And so as someone writing documentation, then you also have to like, no, no shortcuts. People need to rely on this thing to do the thing. So yeah, definitely tricky.
Yeah, we know.
Should we wrap up?
Yeah.
This was amazing and actually very concise session if you take into account all of the things we went through. So we're under 40 minutes, but we did a lot of stuff. So
that's true.
Thrilling, really.
Adriana, do you want to do the outtake?
Oh, so the outro for On Call Me Maybe is our guests always have to say peace, love, and code. So maybe you each can like you can either say it at the same time or each person take a word.
Let's do a countdown. Let's do
a countdown. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Peace, love, and code.
Peace, love, and code.
That's terrible.
We weren't very synchronized.
That'll make it more fun.